Hi, and welcome back to Creative Live. I am your host today. It's a surprise visit from me, Kate Dessa. I am the social media and content manager and also your host today. So get familiar with me. It will be between me and Kenna joining all of you. And today I'm super excited to have Jason Hoppe joining us for a little live kickoff for his brand new class, Create Brushes in Adobe Illustrator. And we are going to be chatting a little bit about his new class and talking about a couple new other classes that he has in the works. So welcome to the stream, Jason. I'm excited to kick off this class with you today.
Always great to be here, folks. I always look forward to this. For many of you that have seen these before, you know the drill. You know what I do. And those of you that are new, well, welcome. It's great to have you here. And we're going to show you all the fantastic things that I can bring you.
All right. Well,
Always
let's
good.
talk a little bit about the class. So this class is specifically to learn a little bit about brushes, start to make your workflow a little easier. So tell me the impetus of this class. What inspired it?
So brushes in Illustrator are something that people think that you need to know how to paint or like using a paintbrush. And a lot of people really don't understand what a brush is. And people use it and it's like, oh yeah, it's fine. I can paint a little bit. But brushes are this world in and of themselves. And you can go into Illustrator and see some of the default brushes and play around with them. But I bring this to a totally different level. And there's lots of ins and outs with brushes that even if you are a seasoned Illustrator user, you may not know how to truly make all the brush options work. And if you've used Illustrator before, in all reality, you know there's a lot of little hidden things and a lot of little quirks, and brushes, this brings it in spades. So I thought, okay, let's get into this and every little detail of what the brushes do and all these crazy things that you can create. So we just thought, you know what, let's really bring this out, not as a surface level, but a really in-depth look at what you can do with brushes and how you can use the scatter and the art brushes and, the calligraphic brush and just create some amazing pieces of artwork. And it's not hard. That's the best part.
All right. I need to know a little bit more about this what was the name? The
calligraphic.
I don't even know what you just said.
So for those of you that like to do calligraphy, of course, the simple brush, when you just grab the brush tool and start to paint, it's just like a little black dot and you can just kind of draw lines. But of course, the calligraphic brush, you can change the angle and the thinness of the thickness. So if you'd like to do calligraphy, that's one way that you can do it with this calligraphic brush, which is just one of the 5 brushes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to hear from everybody tuning in where they're watching from and what is your go-to brush. Tell us a little bit, Jason. Is there a brush that you tend to go for, most often, or is it, based on what work you're doing?
So my go-to brushes are the art brush and the scatter brush, only because I create a lot of visuals. So icons and graphics and less free-flowing artwork. So the scatter brush and the art brush allow you to create like random patterns. So if I'm doing like a cloud structure or doing some grass, I can use the scatter brush to create a brush and then change the attributes with the size and the rotation and just kind of almost like spray it on there. And then the art brush is an amazing brush where you can go and you can create long lines of artwork. So I was just creating a set of brushes with some really cool lines and dots on the end. And, people use these in patterns for like apparel design. So how do you create zippers? How do you create, stitched seams? And that's what the art brush does. So it's like this infinitely stretchable brush. And of course, once you get into these things and see what you can do, I know so many people are going to be like, that's how you make it happen. And then, of course, you get into the pattern brushes, and the pattern brushes, you can create super intricate borders or lines that repeat, and then you can change the corners, square corners, round corners, and the way they go together. And then all of a sudden, people are like, okay, mind blown, this is great. I've been doing this for years, and I never knew, that you could do all of this. So it really is one of those little hidden gems. that just isn't super clear how to use if you just jump into brushes yourself. I mean, it took some kind of mind-bending stuff to really figure out how they put this together to make this, to make each and every aspect of the brush work. But I spell that all out in the videos, and there's lots of them. I think there's 13 in this series of
Yeah.
brushes. Yeah. So there's a lot to go on.
And yeah, I'm excited to learn more about brushes. I spend more time in the Photoshop and InDesign side of things. Can you tell me a little bit? Is the brush tool kind of similar in those two programs, and is this applicable in Illustrator to use these kind of same techniques to create brushes?
So to answer that question, is it the same as Photoshop? Absolutely not.
All right.
The Illustrator brushes are pretty unique. The one common feature that we have between the Illustrator and the Photoshop brushes are what Illustrator calls the bristle brushes. And in Photoshop, that's your art brushes, where you can get this watercolor effect and adjust the bristles and the shape of the brush and its attributes of how stiff and how soft the brush is, and basically the flow of that. But that's just one of 5 brushes that is in Illustrator. And so while Photoshop allows you to paint with color, Illustrator allows you to paint with artwork. So much different take on it. So one similarity out of the 5, but yeah, Illustrator definitely is very unique in that regard.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Well, that gets me excited to explore Illustrator brushes a little bit more then.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
Don't be afraid of them. That's the thing. Watch
that's
this video, try this stuff, because, and so many times people are just like, you know what, I tried and it just didn't work. And it's like, okay, it's a really simple dialog box, but they pack a lot of things into that dialog box that you can change. And knowing the settings and make that happen, it's not super intuitive. But once you watch this brushes video, you'll definitely get it. I mean, no question about it.
great. I'm excited to explore them because brushes are even in Photoshop as I would call myself a novice. The tools in all Adobe programs are so much more robust than the whatever the intuitive thing that you're doing is. And so
Yes.
it's exciting to hear so much about how deep these brushes go, and it's exciting to have a class where we can actually take a deep dive into those.
Mhm.
Um, so tell me a little bit behind you. Actually, you have your Illustrator book that you published recently. So also
I
tell us a
do.
little bit about the
So right over there, you see my book, Illustrator, and it's called the Illustrator Course and Compendium. So what makes this book unique is we cover a lot of topics in Illustrator, and then I've got 100 pages in the front of the book of all these step-by-step ways that you can go ahead and use Illustrator to create something. And the way I wrote this book is I take the approach that you don't have to know how to draw or paint or illustrate. Everything I show you is how to create everything out of basic shapes. And we take you from the simple to the complex constructions and walk you through all the shape tools and the pen tool and applying color and special effects and how to build an entire scene, all with the basic tools, all with the basic shapes. And you're going to be surprised because all these really amazingly cool things that you see are actually not difficult to build. It's kind of like watching a magic show. If you don't know what goes behind the scenes, you're just absolutely amazed. But once you know how the tricks work, you're like, oh, I know how that works. And it's like, it is. It's easy and it's fun. So this book, Illustrator Course and Compendium, and there's going to be a link there if you want to buy it, definitely buy it. It's a nice book, and not just like nice book, but it's like the cover is really nicely printed and the quality of the printing is really good. And of course, it's a really good book too.
yeah.
But you
So
already know
I
that
just
if you're joining us, I mean, you joined us for a reason. So, yeah.
I just dropped a link to Jason's book in the comments. So if you guys haven't got it, it is there for you guys to check out. And Jason, you sell it as a hardback and an online book, right?
Absolutely. If you go to Amazon, you can get the book. But if you go to the publisher, which is Rocky Nook, you can actually buy the combination ebook and print version as well. Or you can get both as a standalone too. And I laid out the book, designed the book, and laid out the entire book so that the ebook there I know is going to be an excellent representation of the book, and it's not going to be clunky. So it's actually done really nice. If you like to go ahead and have an e-reader, an iPad, and see the book there, it's definitely worth having.
All right, nice. So let's before we have a video we're going to play everyone, but before we jump into that, I want to also talk a little bit about another new class that we haven't introduced live yet, which is Illustrator color class. So tell us a little bit about that new class and how these two classes can work together.
Well, the color class in Illustrator is a lot more robust than the brushes. I mean, we're only dealing with 5 brushes, but I made 13 videos from those 5 brushes and what you can do. Color in Illustrator is by far probably one of the most feature-laden things that you can find beyond what you can do in Illustrator or in Photoshop and in InDesign. So many unique features to Illustrator that we can deal with color. And when I teach color classes, I can teach the basics of color in InDesign in under 30 minutes. In Illustrator, I don't know how many videos did we make on this. I don't know, what was it, 18 or something? I can't remember the number of videos. But so many color options like the Adobe Color Themes panel and the color guide and your swatches and your tints and how you can recolor artwork. And so Illustrator is, I mean, it's very wide and it's very deep how they go in and work with color. And a lot of things seem to overlap. Some of them don't seem to work the way you expect. We cover every single one of those topics in Illustrator. And I can tell you when people see this, all they have to say is, wow, I never knew there was so many things you could do. And figure out color harmonies. There's like 36 different color harmonies. How to pick a color and then edit that color and get totally different color themes from that. So if you're not, super confident about picking a color or a set of colors for your project or your artwork, we show you multiple different ways to get the best color you could possibly imagine, and then create your artwork, and then create 10 different colored versions of that artwork in just minutes. None of this going in and changing the color. Recolor artwork and their new updated recolor artwork panel. It's an absolute game changer. And I use this all the time. So can you use this with brushes? Sure. Create some artwork with brushes and then go in and change the different color themes with it. You'll see that in the brushes. I did a great little animation of the little fire hydrant. It's called the Happy Little Hydrant. And so we do it as a brush. Little hydrant is a brush that goes around putting out fires with its little buddies, and show you how to change the colors of the fire hydrants in just seconds. So yeah, it's fun, it's creative,
Awesome.
and it truly is mind-blowing. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna roll a little video where you actually are teaching us how to create a color wheel in Illustrator, and I'm like blown away how quickly you make that color wheel, and then you are editing the colors, and it's like so seamlessly, given it has so many small little sections. And so I'm excited to show this video and kind of give people an idea of how robust the color in Illustrator really is.
Well, and with that video, what's amazing is that people are like, well, how hard is it to create a color wheel? And I said, it isn't. You just make the color wheel. I said, but what colors do you put on the color wheel? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, right. And so I show you how to use a totally different color mode, HSB, hue, saturation, and brightness. And within minutes, you can get the perfect colors. And I just had a comment from somebody on YouTube. They're like, why does this not have millions of views?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because, people just think, well, how hard can it be? Once you try it, you're like, oh my gosh, but then, of course, I make it easy. So, yeah, let's see how awesome it is.
Let's watch.
Hello everyone, Jason here to show you how to create a color wheel in Illustrator in a very, very, very easy way. So first of all, we need to build this color wheel. So I'm using this as representation. And the best way to build a color wheel is to use the Polar Grid tool, which is nested underneath our line segment tool. Polar Grid tool. Click with the cursor on your artboard, setting a size of 500 pixels. 5 concentric dividers, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The outer ring isn't considered a divider, it's just considered the edge. 12 radial dividers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Beautiful. Click OK. There is our color wheel. Now, in order to make each one of these shapes fillable, I need to go to my Layers panel. Open the twirly, open that group of this object that I have. I want to target just the radial dividers. So those are selected. I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt key and my Shift key, and I'm going to extend those a bit beyond the edge of my outer ring. This is something you have to do. I'm going to select that wheel again, Pathfinder panel, and I'm going to use the divide function. The divide function doesn't work if those simply touch the outer ring. They have to go past it in order to divide it. Important, or else you're going to end up with very large sections that are not equally divided into segments. Once you select the entire combination, click the divide function, you'll see that they divide and those ends go away. Going back to the Layers panel, now we can see that these are all divided into separate fillable sections. I'm going to ungroup, Shift Command or Shift Control G, and now we have each one of these set up as its own shape. Now, we're going to fill these with colors, but how do you pick the right color going around the color wheel? How do you know which are the basic colors? Your color panel. And what you want to have when you go into your color panel is you want to set your color options for hue, saturation, and brightness. And the reason why is because hue, saturation, and brightness is actually indicated on a 360-degree circle. You're doing a color wheel, it's a circle. Why is that important? Because it makes choosing the colors ridiculously easy. So here, we're going to start off with our hue, saturation, and brightness. We're going to set our hue at 0, which is going to start us off at our basic red. Because this is a circle and we have 12 sections, each one of these is going to be 30 degrees difference. There's our hue. Next hue is going to be 30. We're going to keep our saturation and brightness at 100. So we're going to do 30%, and then 60%, and then 90%. You get where we're going here. This is going to be 120. See how easy this is? 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, and then of course completing the circle, 360, or back to 0. It's that simple. And now we've got the perfect spectrum indicated on a color wheel. Next, we need to go and we need to fill in these sections with the variations. Okay, each variation going through. So this is how you do it. If you select the next section going in, here, this next one, we're going to go back to our hue. And this is going to be, so we started at 30, or 0, and this is 30. So I'm going to do 30, and you can see that this is 100%. So in order to cut down the saturation, this is going to be 80, and then this coming in is going to be 60. So I can apply that color again and say 60. Then I can apply this color again. Just make sure I get that selected. These are a little tricky to select as you go through here. Zooming in would probably help. Apply that color. This one's going to be 40. And then this last one is going to be 20. There we have it. Now we have all our variations. Now what you're going to do is you're going to complete this process going through with each and every color, just like I showed you. Starting with the outside color, and then the next outside color, the saturation is going to be 80%. Next one's going to be 60, 40, 20, all the way down to 0 of this same color. That's how you create a color wheel. That easy. So once you've propagated this entire color wheel, you're ready to go and you're ready to create different variations of this color wheel. So to create different variations of this color wheel, you can duplicate this as many times as you'd like. And the easiest way to do that is to hold down your Option or Alt, click and drag, and duplicate these so that you have multiple different representations of the color wheel. We're now going to take one of the color wheels and select the entire wheel, Edit menu, Edit colors, Recolor artwork. If you're not running Illustrator 2021, you won't see this window. This is something that they've just added. What you'll see is you'll see this. To get to that initial looking window, click on the Edit tab, and this is what you have. Now this Edit tab and the settings here is virtually the same as this window when you go in. The only difference is that they've taken out a couple different items. But here, or in the advanced options, all we want to really talk about here is our saturation and our brightness. And we can adjust this. So with my wheel selected, I can choose my saturation. So there's my saturation, and I can saturate or desaturate that entire color wheel. Great. I'm going to go to this next color wheel, and I'm going to try something that is going to be brighter. So now I'm going to click over to my brighter, and I can go and I can adjust this so that I get more intense saturation, less intense saturation, or go in and do my brightness overall. So there's my brightness. So there's just a quick little tutorial on how to put a color wheel together and create your different hues and saturations.
All right, so tell us in the comments if you are as blown away as I was when I watched this video. Jason makes these 4 color wheels in like, what, 6 minutes? So Jason, for me, this blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about, kind of discovering this workflow and how you speak to it in the color class.
So the way I come up with this is that I've been teaching for 20 plus years, and I teach college level graphic design and photography classes. And of course, you got to take type classes and design and color classes. And one of the basic things with color class is understanding a color wheel. And so, they make it by hand, painting it, and which takes hours. And it's like, let me show you how to make it on the computer. And they're like, oh no, we can go ahead and do it. It's like, yeah, do it. And then they're like, oh yeah, how do you build it? So simple little grid. And then of course you saw the couple little tricks in there to get all little pie shapes to work. And then hue, saturation, and brightness. I mean, how many people knew that hue, saturation, and brightness is itself a wheel in the way it represents? So instead of just picking random colors on this entire spectrum of like RGB or 3-dimensional space, hue, saturation, and brightness. 0, 30, 60, 90 degrees. You go around the entire circle, just like a clock, and you pick a color, and people are like, why didn't I ever know this? And it's like, I don't know. I didn't know this. I stumbled upon it as I went through. It's like, wait a second. I learned this years ago, and it's like, I've never heard anybody say this.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's like, I think this is worthy of a video.
It was absolutely worthy of.
Yeah. So, but this is the kind of fun stuff I like to do. People say, well, how do I do this? And it's like, well, this is an awesome challenge. Let's just go ahead and make it. They're like, well, how do you think about it? It's like, you gave me the challenge, and I think, okay, let's solve it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
That is awesome. And yes, to your point, one of the first comments on that video, which if you guys saw, if you want to check out more of Jason's videos, he has an amazing YouTube channel full of tutorials, and it's just YouTube.com/Jason Hoppe. That's where that video is sourced from. And the first comment was, how does this not have 1 million views yet? Because it is so helpful, and so many of Jason's other videos on his YouTube channel are helpful. But before you go digging around his YouTube channel, you got to go watch his brush class, which starts here at 9:30 sharp. So if you have any questions before we kick off the class, drop them in the comments now. And Jason, tell us a little bit of, just quickly remind everybody what they're going to get from this class.
So with the brushes class, we cover the 5 different types of brushes. And we also go through, show you how to use the brush tool. If you are like a Wacom tablet or tablet user with a pen, we show you some of the features that you can go ahead and use with those. Keeping in mind, because you've got 5 different brushes, vastly different styles of things that you can create. And when you watch this, you may say, okay, what am I going to get out of this? Well, watch the different types of brushes, and you're probably going to look at things, and it's like, that's how they do those. They didn't go in there and draw that. They made it a brush, and then they just painted the thing in there. It's like, wow, that simple. And it's like, it is, because you see all these cool things that people do, and they're like, how do they make this twisted thing with this pattern? And it's like, I can't figure it out. Most likely a brush, folks. And how to make texture brushes. You could buy these brush packs online, make your own. It's great. So You're going to get just everything you want to know about brushes and then some in this class.
Awesome. And I am dropping in the comments a link to go watch the class. We'll be closing out this live stream with Jason. And so you'll head over to the class page. You can watch it for 24 hours for free. So make sure you do that today. And Jason, before we sign off, tell us where everybody can follow you. We talked about your YouTube channel. Where else can they keep in contact and ask you questions if they arise?
Well, you can always go to my website, jasonhoppe.com, and I've got a blog there that I've been doing for years on all things Illustrator. You can see me there, of course, on YouTube, youtube.com/jasonhoppe. Of course, the Creative Live. If you want to know everything about Illustrator, I have got this huge, massive Illustrator class here from start to finish on Creative Live, as well as many other videos. I'm going to be doing more of them as well. LinkedIn, Jason Hoppe, post a lot of stuff there too. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Jason Hoppe, ACE. By the way, ACE stands for Adobe Certified Expert. So Jason Hoppe, ACE. You know, and it's all my car stuff on Instagram. But if you search for me, I'm either a baseball player in Wisconsin or a doctor in New York or here in Seattle. So not very many Jason Hoppes to look through.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for coming back and doing this little live kickoff. I'm so excited to dig into these brushes and learn things that I didn't even know existed. So just as a friendly reminder, we are signing off here in just a minute. And so I just dropped a link to the class that will kick off in just a few minutes where you guys can watch it all for 24 hours for free. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And thanks, Jason, for putting together another killer class.
Well, thank you, Kate. And thank you, everybody. Those of you that have joined us for many times in the past, and those of you that are just here and will join us many times in the future, thanks again. We look forward to seeing a lot more of you.
Pursuing creativity is arguably the most practical thing that you can do.
We humans are adaptation champions. That's what makes us human, our ability to imagine.
The hard part is to look inside and say, what are my invisible beliefs that I have about money? I wanted to figure out how it actually worked.
And you are really here because you became passionate about an idea.
What does it take to capture great photographs of birds? You have to be grounded in your cameras. You need to understand the technology.
Just like any band shoot, we're looking to capture great shots of the band themselves playing on stage. So the drummer shot, lead singer, guitars.
How do you even prepare to shoot with your phone? And then we're actually going to go into the edit.
Once you hit rock bottom, there's no place to go but up. You learn what's real. You learn what's needed.
In astrophotography, there is a great deal more planning involved because you are literally shooting in the dark.
We can't change others, but we can change our perspective.
Wow, that's a good way to start the day.
I had tears in my eyes.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Chase Jarvis, founder and CEO of Creative Live. You all know that we have more than 2,000 classes and more than 10,000 hours of learning, inspirational, and motivational content on the platform. I'm super excited to announce a new experience on Creative Live. It's called Fast Class. You've told us that you're busy and sometimes it's hard to dive into a full class from start to finish. So essentially, we're now giving you a shortened highlight version of our top Creative Live classes. You can always dive into the full class with 5, 10, or 15 hours of great content. But now, if you're just looking to focus on a few of the highlights or want to be able to skip quickly to something that really interests you, you can now get a shortened fast class version of that class. We're also thinking this might be able to help you explore a new craft and save time while doing it. This is a great tool to curate your learning experience to help create the life that you seek. So you're probably thinking, great, how do I access this new experience on Creative Live? That's easy. All you have to do is be a subscriber to the Creator Pass, and then all this is yours. If you're feeling isolated and looking for creative connection, try tuning into creativelive.com/TV. That's where we've got a 24/7 live stream from the kitchen counters.
I can do that backlit shot that I really like to do.
From the studios and living rooms of many of the world's top creators, where we're doing musical performances, Q&As, cooking shows, virtual book tour events, drawing, spoken word poetry, and more.
Life passed me by waiting for an invitation when the world is greater than my nation or my occupation. Be someone you've never been. You feel all that adrenaline, it's medicine.
It actually helps me feel like my days are more purposeful.
I hope that out of this deep pain will come some collective growth.
Dive into Creative Live TV today.